Sara Jones, welcome to the Solution Heroes podcast. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Chris, for having me.
Yes, for those of you listening and for those of you watching, and you do not know Sara Jones and you're in solutions, I recommend you go to the internet. It's where you will. Most of us know who Sara Jones is because she's one of the most popular people in this profession. If you don't know her, please connect with her on LinkedIn. Please start to follow her because Sara, when I first started watching your content and kind of getting engaged with you in the professional realm of solution consulting, I don't know, I was immediately like, yes, this is the person I need to be with. You always spit truth out there. I love that your tagline is leading the solutions conversation. That will never get old to me. So thank you so much, first of all, for just sharing all your wisdom out in the world.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Very kind
Yeah.
words.
For those of you who don't know Sara, Sara has t over 20 years of experience across the software industry. We're talking SAP, Zendesk, Sitecore. We're talking about operational excellence, driving revenue growth. She's really pioneering a lot of like customer-centric methodologies, enterprise global solution engineering stuff. So if you're in solution consulting, you'll recognize Sara as really a champion in driving the chief solution officer mindset, which takes us well beyond just securing the technical win and doing the technical sales stuff. Um, Interesting note there too is I think you were at SAP in China. You lived in China while you were there at SAP. Is that right?
I did, yes, 3 years in Shanghai.
Oh my gosh. So not only did you lead the global team, but you're living in China doing it. And did you moved your family there?
I did, yeah. My kids were a little smaller then, but we had a great time. It was a professional growth curve for me, and personally, we got to do so much travel through Asia. It was a fantastic experience.
That's amazing. Um, and if you're listening to Sara, you can understand that she is British by birth, American by choice, after gaining citizenship in 2004. And Sara is in the Atlanta area, but engaged in a whole wide realm of professional and community groups. As strategic advisor, she's a member of Chief and the PreSales Leadership Collective. So, um, hot take, I want to ask your input on this decision because we have a lot of people right now and leaders I talk to are having to make decisions on whether they should get their SEs in the field, whether they should keep them at work from home or in the office. So uh, if you could have an SE who could visit one prospect or customer on a site visit in one day, or you could have them do four demos in that day, which would you choose and why?
I would definitely choose the on-site visit. I think that coming out of COVID, there's been a huge reluctance to get back to face in the tech world. And I get it, right? We saw huge cost savings with people not having to jump on a plane, book a hotel, rent a car, and all sorts of things like that. But there's a limit to how much you can do virtually. You can't bond over a cup of coffee. You can't have a laugh with a cocktail. You can't get to know somebody personally over dinner when you're doing that virtually. And all of those things go into the mix to help build a trusted, respected relationship with people. So on site, and I've witnessed this myself. We've had a huge turnaround at Sitecore in the last 6 months since I've been here, in that our COO, now CEO, wants us to drive to customer interactions in real life,
Yeah.
IRL. So I and I love this. I love what you can build and create and make much more memorable when you're in a real life situation rather than doing it virtually. So I will take a in-person visit over four demos.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm certainly in that camp too, Sara. So that's refreshing to hear that. I'm curious, if you mentioned the coffee and the cocktails, and that's the sort of thing, you want to break bread with people, right? This is like this is classic for a reason, and it's really my go-to as well. Do you have any other suggestions on how to do this? Because some people in solutions are like, hey man, I got into this like just a year before COVID, and now I really don't have any experience like getting out there with customers. Does it feel awkward? Um, so any recommendations on how to like break that feeling of awkwardness when it goes to meeting somebody?
I think uh, refer back to your own relationships in real life, right? You've got partners, you've got friends, you've got colleagues who you must get together with outside of a virtual reality,
Yeah.
not virtual reality, a virtual
Yeah.
platform. So it's, it's they're human beings. Ask them questions about their life. Ask them questions. You might notice something that if you're sitting in their office, there might be an interesting poster or a tagline or a slogan from their company. If you're sitting face to face individually one on one, there might be a personal photo or a certificate or a trophy sitting in their office. You can always start off a conversation by just being curious about that individual and asking some questions.
I love that. And curious is one of my favorite words. In fact, I think if I keep using it, there's gonna be some meme that says like basically that's all Chris says. Uh, but I'm convinced, I mean, for sure that like a high level of curiosity right now when it comes to connecting with humans is the thing that sets people apart, especially in our profession. You know, we're mostly talking about the professional world, but even in your personal life, what a great way to meet people, you know? And beyond the how was your day, what kind of curiosity do you have about somebody? And it goes a long way.
Yes, I'm that annoying person on a plane who will chat to you.
I appreciate that. Um, so you've recently moved into this global VP of solutions role, and global is not new to you. You know, you lived in China, you moved your family there, and you've got a lot of experience running global teams. Um, but every new challenge has its new set of opportunities, um, challenges, the hard part, and then like the fun, interesting, creative stuff. Can you share with us what some of your most interesting leadership challenges you're tackling now are?
Sure. So first off, I'll say that when I first arrived at Sitecore, number one, I have a fantastic leadership team. I've got a team of people who are very capable, very able, overworked, not really sure how to delegate too well. So that was one of the
Mm.
first things that we worked on was, you can delegate. You don't have to feel like you can take on all the strategic customers yourself. You actually do have a very capable team. Don't be afraid of that D word. Secondly, one of my observations of the team was they're all brilliant, but they're deep in the product. So, trying to lift their heads up a little bit and think more business outcome driven rather than, oh my gosh, we have all of these great features and functions in our solution being to be able to demonstrate. So we've been doing a lot of enablement, a lot of coaching around that. Is like how do you weave in the expected business outcomes? How do you tie that back to real metrics from our customer database? How do you tie that back from metrics that you've collected from your customer to help them see that this business decision they're making is going to be the right one, both financially, emotionally, and technically? So I think we would always win the tech side of house. Our solution is absolutely phenomenal. I'm blown away by its capabilities, but it's not necessarily reflected in our market perception. And so that's one of the longer term challenges we're working on is working with our analyst community to really get them to understand what it is that we do. And I think a lot of that comes to storytelling, right? It's
Yeah,
getting my team comfortable with how do you tell the Sitecore story and make it compelling, make it memorable, make it so that it's very relevant for that customer that you're talking to, and make it unique to Sitecore. And so, yeah, we've been working on that. So it's but I have a phenomenal team. They're hungry to be able to do things differently. We want to move the needle on win rate, which is one of the metrics we use to track. So yeah, that's a few things that are on my plate right now.
Yeah,
Oh,
a few things.
also rebuilding a demo engineering team. So that's been a lot of fun.
Okay. What recommendation do you have when it comes to learning that business acumen? Because, um, look, I was on a event yesterday, and it was, man, if I could give anybody advice right now, especially if you're selling into enterprise, and you're using tools now to do a lot of like the demo prepping and other things that you used to spend time on. I would say learn the business, learn how stakeholders work, learn how finances work. But
Yes.
I'm a little at a loss of where to point people to some of those great resources. So, like, what are some of the pieces, the tools you're using to enable them?
We have an internal industry value team, and so a lot of the customers that we have that are in specific industries, there's already a ton of assets that we have internally around maturity, around digital growth, digital vision, around what trends are happening in marketing, how AI is woven through all of that. So we're quite lucky in the fact that we do have a team of people who keep up to date with all of that. Otherwise, ChatGPT is a great bedfellow. I mean, you can
Yeah,
put some stuff in ChatGPT, and if you prompt it right, you'll get a ton of information back that really does help to put things in a nutshell and can really accelerate what it is you're trying to accomplish for any particular customer.
that's an excellent use of AI to try to. We often think of because AI is really taken on the coding of the world and a lot of other things. I use AI in content too, but we don't often think of using that tool in our soft skills abilities or business acumen to understand a business and what some of the moving pieces are in it. That's cool. Um, I also love that it's like you're using what you already got there, right? And there's something beautiful about that. Like oftentimes in business, we build all this incredible stuff and we have these knowledge bases and we have academies and we have a deep set of knowledge, and we're just maybe not using it enough.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah, that's really cool. So that answers the how are you going to solve it problem, which I really like. Um, you and I have met in person multiple times, dinners, panels, events. We've been on virtual panels together. You've been on a ton of them. But I keep kind of pulling on this thread of in person um, versus non-in person. Um, how are you going about actually structuring in-person work within your team's calendars and like as part of your workflow without trying to lose some of that like the velocity of your sales?
So I think I would answer this on a couple of different levels. So one of the first things I did with my boss was tell him that I wanted to get my teams together because I wanted to have some very specific, targeted SE conversations,
Mm,
specifically talking around things like discovery. How do we do discovery better, more effectively, more efficiently? How do we position our story? And at the time, we were also working very closely with the messaging around our branded AI through our solution set, and we wanted to get everyone up to speed with what the story was with that. So, and he was all for it. He said, yes, please get everyone together. So we had a couple of regional meetings, 3 regional meetings for 3 regions, getting all the SEs together. And there I was absolutely horrified to find out that they hadn't got together since before COVID as a team.
wow.
So they just watching the dynamics, the energy in the room, the passion that everyone was feeding off of, the commitment to each other in some of the team activities that we did, the fun that we had. We had some icebreaker activities that were a little bit off the wall, and we went to dinner and we did another team building event in each location that we met. And that stuff is priceless. When you can rely on your teammates and know that you can do that because you've spent time with them doing lots of different things in a very condensed time. It makes it all the more powerful. You know that you have a team who are going to support one another. They're going to be behind one another. They know one another and they trust one another. So then when you put that dynamic in front of a customer, it makes it so much easier, especially if you've got a couple of your teammates working together in front of the customer, because they've had this ability to build their social skills in internal team events. It's fluid now when you're in front of a customer, right? It's not a
Right.
disjointed approach. The conversations flow, the tennis ball backwards and forwards of where you're reiterating things for your customer. You get a sense of who's going to be answering what and filling in the blanks of what the customer is responding to. Again, that's priceless. And it's much harder to do on a Zoom call, right? Because
Yeah.
you got to wait for the little green box to come around for you to speak. You can't speak over one another very easily. You can't have that fluidity. You've got to be much more aware of your screen rather than everything else that goes into human interaction, the body language, the eye contact, the waving of the hands when you're trying to make a point,
Yeah.
all of those things that are so difficult to do through a screen. I think that's what makes human being human is all of that.
Yeah. Well said. You came and presented to the Reprise team at our kickoff. Um, and it was it was like a couple weeks into my role, and having joined an organization, and then getting to meet everybody quickly was amazing. It's given me a bit of a superpower because I have a leg up. Now I know everyone. And now asking people for help or making suggestions on changes, and it's all much easier because it's I know them, we played mini golf together, and you were there in person, and it was amazing to see our whole organization asking questions
Yes. Yes,
from a
that was
product perspective, engineering, not just go to market. I'm not talking about a SKO with a big flashy sales kickoff. This was like in a room with everybody at our company saying, "Hey, what questions do you have for these incredible leaders?" And there was like product people asking questions, and everybody was interested.
yes, yes, that was a really good event. Thank you for inviting me to that one.
Yeah. And I think that would have never happened on Zoom. I mean, imagine trying to have that virtually. It would have never been as impactful, you know.
Yes, you're right. Yep.
Um, we're also trying to a lot of us I think are at a zone where we're like, okay, maybe the hiring freezes have stopped. Maybe we're trying to get another person on our team. How do you vet this with a candidate? So I'm really interested in hiring people who either A, understand this is important, or B, don't give a lot of pushback when we're like, hey, we're going to go on site, right? So like beyond just, travel being mentioned at the bottom of the job description, how do you validate like, do they really find value in it?
I haven't found that to be an issue actually, Chris. So I have been doing some interviewing lately. One of them is for a global role, and you know what that entails. It's a 14, 16-hour flight to the other side of the world, from North America. So
Yeah.
when you talk about a global role and it's expected to be 50% of the time. In fact, I had one candidate that withdrew because of that criteria. And that's okay. Travel like that is not for everybody. But I think if you set the right expectations of what you want, then people will work around it. Um,
Yeah.
I'm not expecting 50% travel from the whole group, but there are certain roles where you're going to be on the road a little bit more than you're not.
Right. Right. I've been doing interviews as well, and I love it when I can see somebody who's really itching to get out there.
Yeah,
Right. And it's like, no, no, that's not a problem. I can't wait. You know, it
yeah.
really sets somebody apart now. So if you're listening and you're in the market or you're, curious, I would say lean into that a little bit. Um,
I would look from the human aspect of that, Chris, as well. We live on a beautiful planet, right?
yeah.
And even if you're just traveling in North America, this is a very diverse country. There are so many different pockets of different culture in different parts of this great country. There are different foods to explore. There's different scenery. There's even ways that people speak. Y'all down here in the South, it's all
Yeah.
y'all. Uh, and I think that we may have lost some of that connection through COVID and not got it back. Because I think if you actually see and interact with other human beings in other different parts outside of your own little sphere, you become a little bit more tolerant, a little bit more accepting, a little bit more inclusive, because you'll see that underneath it all, we're all human beings just trying to do the right thing in life.
Right. Right. This has a little bit of a relevance here, but you have held and still do hold a lot of strategic advisor roles. So it's a bit on the human side of advisory, which is the bridge I'll take. Um, can you explain to us what those are, and then also how do you find them?
Well, they found me, so that was a good thing. I really like working with teams on helping to amplify their message. So that's a primary goal of my advisor roles. Early on in a couple of those, it was um, not beta testing so much, but validating, I guess, where the vision was going for roadmap. And that was a lot of fun, based upon my experience. Less so now because the companies have grown, and I just enjoy amplifying their message.
Yeah, yeah, that's really cool. And when it comes to like there are a couple of threads I want to pull on when it comes to some of the challenges we're facing in the industry and challenges solution leaders are facing right now. Um, one of those is impact. And it's kind of a perfect time to shift gears into this because when you're amplifying the message as a strategic advisor, it makes me think of, well, hey, aren't all of us internally strategic advisors? And part of the solutions role is well, part of the shift I'm seeing is I mean, maybe I'm just talking personally, is like I want my solutions team to act like strategic advisors for the business on behalf of the company and on behalf of the knowledge they have, right? But it's hard to measure that impact. Um, and this is something that's come up time and time again recently is how to measure impact. So, do you have any secret weapons on measuring impact? And this could be an impact on, you know, on awareness, on pipe generation, on customer acquisition costs. Like, what is your take on that?
Yeah, it's solution engineering pre-sales. We sit in a funny part of the organization where we're sales, but we're not. A lot of us who are deep techies could be considered product, but we're not. We're marketing, but we're not. So a solution engineering role is one of those where it's priceless for an organization. Like any tech company has to have them, but they're often not forgotten, but they're further down on the importance list when it comes to things like spiffs or President's Club recognition or quota payouts. There's some things that make us feel not as worthy as a sales counterpart. So first of all, I would argue with that. If those are the things that drive you, then move into a sales role because the solution engineer role is so unique, and like I said, priceless, but you're never going to get comped like you would for an AE. So I will caveat that conversation. Well, I think when it comes to quantifying the impact that you have, there's subjective criteria that you can share. And then there's the hard and fast data points where your finance and possibly your leader are going to be pointing to. So you've got your hard and fast data points. And these are things I think that will never go out of style. It's obviously, what deals have you touched? What was the win rate associated with that? What was the revenue according to the budget? What did we actually achieve? How are you influencing pipeline progression? So there's metrics like that that you've got on that side. But then there's the whole subjective criteria, which is maybe you want a deal without having to do a demo because you did discovery so well. So how are you quantifying discovery quality, right? Is there a mechanism where you're reviewing that? And there are some great tools out there, things like Gong or oh, I can't think of anything else, but there are other tools out there that allow you to be able to see transcripts of what your team are doing. And like, how can you evaluate that and take best practices from them? Can you measure the time of from when you've got the tech win to when a customer actually starts to implement, right? Because pre-sales can influence this. If we've done all of our due diligence up front, we've done excellent discovery, we've done excellent presentation work and followed up rapidly, how quickly can we get the customer from that point to actually being implemented, right? I know a lot of that hangs on sales, but we take some ownership into that as well. Um, how how quickly does is a go live happening, right? When you compare this from previous interactions with your software, and now you've put all of these best practices into your sales cycle. Does that mean that your success team, your implementation team, your partner, their internal IT team can get up to speed a lot faster? And then, of course, there's the whole like 360 view. It's like just this week, I've had 4 separate emails on my team members saying, not from my team, but from AEs, from managers, from a customer saying, this was a fantastic presentation. I mean, this person went above and beyond. I mean, the accolades were coming up the wazoo. It was just fantastic. I love getting feedback like that. So, and again, it's all like measuring the impact. If you can collect it in a way that balances out all of that subjective stuff, which you can't put on a balance sheet to give to your CFO, as well as the hard and fast metrics that you are collecting that you can give to a CFO.
Yeah, that I want to I'm gonna record I'm gonna like play that back a couple times and I'm gonna take a whiteboard. And what I imagined when you said this is on the left, there's this hard, fast, true, never going away data points.
Yes,
On the right is the hard to quantify things.
yes,
But I'll tell you, I in my position report to the board and my presentation has, okay, how am I influencing these areas of the business? There is room on the board meeting for a subjective type of commentary, right? It's not
yes,
a it's not a moment I wouldn't recommend anybody go to a board meeting and try to sell, okay? Because that's going to get you in trouble.
yep,
Yeah, you don't want to sell something you can't do, first of all,
yes,
but you don't, it's not your moment to sell. It's your moment to basically give these decision makers insight. And so those taking those comments and putting them on a slide saying this is what we're hearing is really powerful.
yes,
We just need somebody in solutions to have a seat at that table to do it for us. Or we need to give that to the right person. Or if we're at a smaller organization or lucky enough to be in that position, it's our job to take those up and share them.
yes, absolutely agree.
One thing within those metrics, though, that you're mentioning is I take myself back to leading a team at a previous organization where I had a big mix of companies and people. We were like one of those companies that acquired a lot of other companies. And some of the people I worked with on my team had tenure of, 10 years or more. Others were like, they were born 3 days before they started that job, right? And they were like, they were brand new, they would do anything. You're like, hey, I need you to go to Greenland. They're like, how far is the kayak? I'll go,
Yeah,
doesn't matter to them. And um, what I found was changing culture especially with senior individuals is really tough. Um, And if you start to measure things like on-site and awareness and building those deeper relationships, to them it can kind of sound a little scary or like, hey, that's not my job. How do you change culture so that they understand the importance of it? It's not that it's not important, it's actually really critical that we likely should have been doing it the whole time. but now you have a new view. How do you get them on board?
So there's a mixture of things between top down. I, I want to use the word stick, but that's too harsh. Top down coaching and leadership
Hmm.
and setting the example. So it does most definitely come from management, but it also comes from bottom up, and it's identifying those shining stars, the rock stars who are doing everything right and amplifying them. I have one such rock star on the team. She's relatively new and has not come from a background of pre-sales, but everything she does is best practice pre-sales.
Wow.
And she's doing it in a way that is creative and innovative. And really, she's very impactful in front of the customer and internally, actually. And so when you you shine a spotlight on somebody like that, it does it creates a ripple of, ooh, I want to get some of that recognition. I want to get some of that kudos. I want to get some of the revenue because she's closing deals. So I think that if you've got change agents within your team, it's like bottle them up and then have
Yeah.
them explode in certain areas, to try and move that. And then individual coaching of people as well. I would also say that putting things out there for compensation drivers also helps. We had to do a big turnaround in admin hygiene, I should say. And one of the things we've done is say, this is going to hit your year-end review. Um, wasn't my idea. It came up from my leadership team, and I loved that idea because it's now tying the carrot and the stick together, right? There's a
Yeah.
little bit of, you absolutely do have to do this hygiene. We need a single source of truth of everything, and the hygiene has to be done. The admin has to be done. And if you're not going to get on board, that's fine. Just know that it is going to impact at merit time.
Mm, I love that. The second piece is I think it's easy to sort of, you're doing demos day in and day out. You're building your customer demos. You're doing POCs. It's hard to remember to put stuff in your CRM. Um, what's hard to remember is that you're actually not just like placating your boss and letting your boss know what's going on with the deal. You're actually informing the entire company of what's happening at that
Yes,
the critical moment of the technical demo and the process in which you're in, whether it's however your business runs it. Everybody wants to know what's going on. It's the most expensive moment for your company as well to be in that deal. It wasn't until I started to understand the financial impacts of like the customer acquisition cost when I started to realize, wow, that 60 minutes is so expensive for us and it's so critical. I've always known the importance of it, but um, we need to make sure we update everything we're doing, raise the red flag as soon as you can, because the business really cares about that very special moment the solution consultant has the deal,
yes,
you
yes,
know?
they do. Yeah,
To your other point on like, first of all, I want to meet her. Whoever's a rock star on your team, the next LinkedIn post we need Sarah is here's who she is, here's what she's doing differently. Be like her, right? Um, and one of the things I say about this is like walk around the town square with a piece of paper with that thing they're doing, and just always every time you go to a leadership meeting, oh, it looks like they're doing it again, right? And you just kind of like start to create that culture shift.
yeah.
Well, that's really cool. One thing we're focused on this month is scaling pre-sales influence on retention, not ownership of. I don't want to get into this whole rabbit hole of pre-sales should own post-sales, what the titling should be, what the comp should be. But we do know that a lot of the time in our role, we're likely the best person for the customer when it comes to either expanding or up-leveling our relationship with that customer. Um, and in the SaaS game, retaining is everything. You cannot have a SaaS business without retention,
Yeah.
right? But it's a little tricky. So, what do you think about pre-sales and retention? And do you have any tips and tricks on making an impact there?
I do have some ideas around this. We our sales organization is split into like hunters and farmers, basically.
Okay.
For the most part, we do have some hybrid roles in certain parts of the world, which means that we split to some extent our SE team into net new focus versus install base. So our install base, we are heavily focused on not only the retention aspect, but what else can the customer be doing with us? So that there's much more of an ongoing relationship between the account manager and SE in an install base account, rather than just looking at, okay, I've got a list of 50 customers who are going to be renewing in the next quarter. Oh my goodness, we better get in front of them. We're trying, Sitecore over the last 18 months has made a significant move away from that mentality and more of the continual engagement with your customer.
Love
And
that.
we're actually seeing much better results as a result of that. I think it goes back to your human contact that we were talking about at the beginning, Chris. Customers they want to feel heard and understood, right? There's nothing worse than selling something to somebody of that value that is so critical to their organization, and then you don't hear from them for 3 years or 5 years or 1 year, whatever the contract value is.
Right.
But if you're staying connected and you're checking in, even if it's a, hey, I just want to see how things are going with you
Yeah.
once a quarter, then it becomes a continual life cycle. And then you get to hear things like, well, in our situation, you know what, we're having some difficulties with personalizing some of our campaigns. We're like, oh, we've got a great tool for that. Let's chat. So now it becomes a much more organic flow, and the renewal becomes a rubber stamp. It becomes oh, of course that's going through, because why would we ever move away from somebody who cares about us, cares about what we're trying to achieve, and is keeping us up to date with everything, and is listening to what we're trying to do?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the, and I that's one of the reasons I love Sitecore so much, is this, that we don't actually, we're not flipping stuff over the wall anymore, like in a more traditional SaaS environment where you've got the pre-motion and then you have the post-motion with customer success and support and all of that. Ours is much more fluid throughout the life cycle of the customer, which I love, because it keeps us closer as an organization, because all elements of a site core are involved. You know, there are going to be support tickets and support cases. There are going to be implementation challenges. There is going to be new sales that take place. So, we're involving a lot of different aspects of our organization throughout the life cycle,
Well,
which
that's
it's unique. It's one that I um, haven't seen as deeply as we're doing it here.
um one thing comes to mind when you were saying this, which is your competitors are likely not doing that, which is really interesting, right? So as you build that relationship over time and it's meaningful and you're doing all those check-ins you described, and that moment of renewal becomes the rubber stamp, they likely have other tools they're using that aren't the rubber stamp because they didn't have any of that relationship building. And we just did this exercise ourselves where you sit back and you go, what is all the tech we have and still do we still need it?
Yes,
Right? And that's the
yes,
list they're going to go through. And guess what? If they know why you're there, they're probably not going to mark you off the board.
yes, that's
Um,
exactly.
the next time you and I talk, I'm going to get deeper into your demo program. Um, but can you give us a quick high level on how you're trying to make your demo strategy improve?
I am trying to get our demo engineering team to take time off of our field pre-sales people, time that they currently spend in personalizing, customizing, tailoring our demo to be very relevant for each customer that they're with. And that obviously takes some time when you're talking about getting customer specific information. It goes beyond just a logo and colors. In our world, we actually want to take information about their brand guidelines, their tone of voice, marketing strategy, any campaigns, because we want to be able to give them a sense of what it would look like within our Sitecore solution. And that takes some prep. So I want my demo engineering team to take off those hours of prep and make it much easier for my solution engineers to be spending more time with the account team on strategy, win themes, making sure we're finding the right customer references, pulling in, working on the metrics for the business case, and really just making sure that our story, the Sitecore story for that particular customer, is relevant and memorable. So that's my vision for the demo engineering team, which we are building in one of our biggest new offices in Sitecore, which is out in Sri Lanka. So we have a big team of people now that we're onboarding out in Sri Lanka to complement the teams that we have in different parts of the world, with a brand new leader who is pulling it all together and executing against that vision. So yeah, if you talk to me in 6 months, hopefully I'll be able to give you some examples of how that actually did impact in real life.
I'm so interested in this. Yeah, that's but you know what, Sarah, you're nailing it on the head, which is what you're doing is you're actually unlocking your SEs. You're letting them do the great work they're there to do. And I'm so passionate about that because that's why we got into this for the first place, right? We none of us said, "Hey, let's become solution engineers so we can spend half of our hours building demo environments and customizing our scripts."
Yes,
No, it's not why we're in this job, right? And when
right.
you when you unleash these people and their superpower, you see the brilliance they bring to the team.
Absolutely. I'm hoping to get scale that way because I'm pretty sure I won't be getting 50 more headcount next year.
Nailed it. Nailed it. Okay. Sarah, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you, and thank you so much. I know we have to wrap, but I would highly recommend that anybody watching this or listening to this, please reach out to Sarah and connect. Where can they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. That's my place where I like to share thoughts, comments, and my experience.
I love it. I hope that you share this so that I can get some of that love too, because I really enjoy your content. So thank you so much, Sarah. I'm sure I'll be seeing you soon, and take care.
Yes, thanks a lot, Chris. It's been an absolute pleasure.